The engines didn't just roar, they warned. They circled the farm like predators that had already chosen their prey, slow, confident, patient. And standing in the middle of that open land, with nothing but dirt, fences, and memory behind them, the Carter brothers looked exactly like what everyone believed them to be. Old, slow, finished. That was the first mistake. Sell or burn. The paper shook in Daniel Carter's hand, though his face didn't. 3 words, written in jagged red ink, pressed deep into the page like whoever wrote them wanted the threat to bleed through. At his feet lay the severed head of one of their pigs, blood still fresh, still warm. The porch boards beneath it had been built by his grandfather, 40 years ago. Now they were soaked. Ethan stepped beside him, eyes locked on the grisly scene, jaw tightening slowly. "They came inside the fence," he said quietly. Daniel nodded once, and stayed long enough to choose which animal to take. That meant something worse than vandalism. That meant control. Behind them, the screen door creaked open. "Daniel," Mara whispered, stepping out and freezing mid-step. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Oh God!" Their Aunt Evelyn followed right behind her. She didn't gasp, didn't flinch. She just stared. Then said flat and cold, "That's ours. That hog came from our own pen." Silence settled heavy between them. Ethan's fist slowly curled. Daniel folded the note carefully, like it was something valuable, and slipped it into his pocket. "Get your phone," he told Mara. "We document everything." "You're calling the sheriff?" she asked. Evelyn gave a dry laugh. "That man won't even answer his own phone unless it rings with money." Daniel didn't respond. He just looked out over the land. "They're not done," he said. By midnight, the farm didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a line that had already been crossed. The distant growl of motorcycles drifted through the dark like a heartbeat that didn't belong there. Not loud enough to locate, just enough to remind them they were being watched. Ethan leaned against the barn door, arms crossed, eyes scanning shadows. "They think we're scared." Daniel checked the old notebook in his hands, worn, filled with precise sketches, angles, notes from another life entirely. "We are," he said calmly. Ethan glanced at him. Daniel closed the notebook, but not in the way they expect. The first sign wasn't sound. It was smell. Gasoline. Sharp, immediate, wrong. Daniel's head snapped toward the hay storage. A flicker of orange light broke the darkness. "Down," he hissed. 2 figures moved along the barn wall, one with a gas can, one with fire. And behind them, a third figure stood back, watching. Confident. Still. That was the one that mattered. Daniel tapped Ethan's shoulder twice. No words. They moved. The lights died instantly as Daniel killed the breaker. Darkness swallowed everything. And that's when the screams started. The first man never saw Ethan coming. 1 second he was pouring fuel. The next, he was airborne, slammed into a steel gate so hard the metal rang like a bell. His arm snapped with a sound that didn't belong in a human body. The second attacker swung the torch wildly. Daniel slipped inside the arc, struck once, precise, controlled, and drove the man face first into a water trough. Held him there. Counted. Then let him breathe. The fire hissed out. Silence returned. Except for one thing. Clapping. Slow. Mocking. "Well now," the man from the shadows stepped forward. "Guess you boys aren't as useless as they said." Ethan stepped beside his brother. Neither of them spoke. The man smiled, then lunged. The knife flashed. The fight lasted seconds. But it felt like something much longer. When it ended, the man staggered back, breathing hard, eyes burning with something darker than pain. "You just made this personal," he growled. Daniel didn't chase him. He didn't need to. The war had already started. By morning, everything had changed. Two attackers sat tied in the feed room. Myra recorded every word. Names, orders, confessions. Who sent you? She demanded. The man with the broken arm cracked first. Rex Nalen, he said. He told us it was easy, said you were just farmers. Daniel and Ethan exchanged a glance. That assumption would cost someone dearly. The sheriff arrived. Late, unbothered, uninterested. These boys say they got lost, he said casually, eyeing the tied men like it was a minor inconvenience. Mara stepped forward, furious. We have video. I'll take that, he interrupted smoothly, pocketing her phone. Daniel watched it happen. Didn't stop it. But something inside him shifted. This wasn't just intimidation anymore. This was protection. For the wrong side. By afternoon, the truth began to surface. A reporter named Lena arrived. Sharp, observant. Unafraid. 3 farms burned in the last year, she said at the kitchen table, all owned by families who refused to sell. Daniel leaned forward slightly. And who bought the land after? He asked. Lena met his eyes. Shell companies tied to one man. Silence. Ethan exhaled slowly. What's his name? Victor Hale. The pieces started connecting. The land wasn't random. It was strategic. Road access, rail line, river route. A perfect corridor. And the Carter farm sat right in the middle of it. They weren't being harassed. They were being removed. That night, headlights appeared again. Slow. Deliberate. Watching. But this time, the Carters were watching back. The attack came just before midnight. Gunshot through the kitchen window. Glass exploded. Myra dropped. Evelyn froze. Ethan moved. Daniel didn't flinch. Down, he said calmly. They regrouped. No panic. No shouting. Only decisions. By morning, the damage was worse. Slashed tires. Contaminated feed. Graffiti across the barn. Dead farm walking. Mara called the sheriff again. Same response. No urgency. No help. That's when Daniel stopped pretending this was still about law. By evening, the farm had changed. It wasn't a home anymore. It was a position. Equipment placed strategically. Access points controlled. Trenches dug. Sightlines mapped. Ethan stood beside Daniel, looking out across the land. They think we're cornered, he said. Daniel shook his head slightly. No, he replied. They just walked into the wrong terrain. Then came the drone. Hovering. Watching. Learning. Daniel didn't look surprised. They're studying us, he said. Ethan nodded. Good. The next day, they went into town. That's where things broke. Inside the supply store, 3 men blocked Ethan's path. Smiling. Waiting. Big farm boy, one said. Not so big now. Ethan didn't react. Didn't rise. Didn't take the bait. Until they grabbed his hand and slammed it in a truck door. Once. Twice. Bone shattered. Blood hit the ground. The men laughed. Accident, they said. Daniel arrived seconds later. Saw the damage. Saw the setup. And understood everything. Ethan grabbed his arm. Don't, he said through clenched teeth. Daniel nodded. They left. But something inside him didn't. That night, Ethan sat on the porch. Hand wrapped. Pain visible. They took my hand, he whispered. Daniel sat beside him. No, he said quietly. They woke up the wrong man. The truth finally came from an unexpected place. One of Rex's men. Beaten. Terrified. Desperate. They're planning to burn the house, he said, with all of you inside. Silence. Then Daniel asked one question. When? Tomorrow night. Everything moved after that. Faster. Sharper. No more hesitation. But they were already too late. Mara disappeared. Taken. A video arrived. She was tied to a chair. Bruised. Defiant. Rex stood behind her. Bring the land papers, he said, smiling, or I send her back in pieces. Ethan didn't speak. He just stood up. Daniel closed the phone. It's a trap, Lena said. Daniel nodded. I know. Ethan looked at him. So? Daniel picked up his old blade. Then we walk into it. The abandoned mill loomed in darkness. Rotting. Silent. Waiting. They moved in without a word. Two shadows. One purpose. The power went out. Darkness swallowed the building. And the fight began. It was brutal. Vast. Precise. Men dropped before they understood what was happening. Rex fought harder. Desperate. But he was outmatched. When it ended, Mara was free. Rex was on the ground. And everything he built was about to collapse. By morning, it did. Arrests. Investigations. Exposure. Victor Hale taken in handcuffs. The sheriff removed. The entire operation dismantled. The farm stood. Damaged. Scarred. But standing. Days later, neighbors came. Food. Tools. Help. Support. Silence had broken. Ethan stood in the field at sunset, hands still healing. They thought we were weak, he said. Daniel looked across the land. They thought wrong. And for the first time since it began, the engines were gone. The silence was finally theirs.